Hey folks, this is Kalani. We're going to be looking at the new Thaumanova Fractal. Now, this is going to be covering both parts which are specific to the story alone, going up into the lower levels of fractals, and then into the higher levels of fractals, so 30 plus. Now, first thing you need to do when you get into this fractal is blow up the wall with the detonator. After you do that, you need to go through. You'll get a load of mobs here, there and everywhere, but what you need to work your way towards is the center console on the platform above. So you need to run up the stairs, head into the center, kill everything around it. Note that any portals left alive are going to start gripping you around unexpectedly and randomly, so I'd recommend clearing out every portal. And then you need to kill the script near a console, and then use that console. Now, from there, it's going to be a little different depending on what level you're on. So, from here, you've got two options. Now, if you're on level 30 fractals or higher, I believe it is, you'll have 4 objectives and you need to complete 3. Bear that in mind, you have 4, but only need to complete 3. That's very important. If you're below 30 or in story, you'll have 3 objectives and need to complete 2. Just 2, so keep that in mind as well. The first of these objectives I'm going to talk about is Subject 6. This is an ooze, a champion ooze, is a boss mob, effectively, and is the northernmost objective. So, what we've basically got is an ooze which summons smaller oozes which will heal him when they get nearby. So you need to take down the smaller oozes as a priority, unless you can kind of nuke him down in about 10 seconds, which I seriously doubt. So, you need to take care of the little oozes, otherwise they will heal him up quite rapidly, which is really annoying at times. I've had it heal practically to full from almost 10%, give or take, which can be frustrating to say the least. So, that's the first mechanic you need to watch out for. The second is that he'll start throwing out a huge AoE. Now, this literally is a huge AoE, starts covering a lot of the ground around you. On story mode and lower fractals, this isn't too bad, but as you get higher, bear in mind that this attack does apply agony, meaning that if you don't have the resistance required to effectively out-resist the agony, you're going to start getting ticks for hefty amounts of your health. The third ability is a block mechanic. Now, while he's blocking and he takes an attack, thereby blocking the attack, he'll gain a stacking buff. When this buff reaches 21, he'll explode, downing everybody in the group. Or there may be a radius on that, I'm not entirely sure, but it's more or less guaranteed to down you, so you need to not attack him while blocking. When he comes out of that, he'll usually start his AoE again. Those are pretty much the only abilities you need to look out for, so when he's blocking, don't do anything, don't attack him, focus on little ads if there are any up. Hopefully there shouldn't be, they should be a priority, and apart from that, just DPS him down. Obviously, try and avoid as much damage as possible, and kill him, really. Note that there is an achievement for getting him to 20 stacks without him exploding, so you may want to try that. If you're trying that, I'd recommend one person trying it, getting him to the 20, and then no one else doing anything. That's probably the best way to do it. But yes, so that is Subject 6. One of the 2 or 3 objectives depending on your fractal level. So from there I'd recommend you go south to the southernmost objective. This is a maze. You can pick up a shield at the start, that'll help you reflect a bit of the damage. If you press 1 it will reflect all auto attacks and you won't get hit by the turrets. Now, noticing turrets, there are turrets all around this maze. Getting hit by a turret will knock you back and you just end up getting chain knocked back and it's a pain. So try to avoid them as much as possible. You can evade them, and as I say, you can use the shield. There are also golem mobs in here. You can kill them relatively easily, they're just normal mobs. So, the objective is to use the consoles right at the back, but they're protected by a force field, which is deactivated by a console behind a force field, which is deactivated by another console. So what you need to do, you need to work your way to the first console, get one person constantly using that, then a second person needs to go to the second console, which is being protected by a force field, which you just got rid of with the first console. Bear in mind these are timed, so you need to constantly use the first console to get the force field to go down for someone to go into the second console, okay, to use that to bring down the shields on the consoles you need to use to complete the objective. Now 2 consoles are there, so if you're able to do 2, for example use one, cleanse the immobilized, use the other, that's brilliant. If not, just get 2 people there, it's not too much of a hassle. Bear in mind we were happily able to leave the first console after somebody was inside the second console room. So, pretty easy, in fact incredibly easy, let's be honest, if you are a coordinated group. If not, spend a little bit of time discussing who's going to do what, make sure everybody's happy with what they're doing, and it'll be a lot easier, a lot of a smoother run than if you kind of just expect everybody to know what they're doing. But that's the second objective. Now, if you're below level 30 fractals, that'll be you done. You don't have to do with anything else, you can kind of skip towards the end boss. But I'm going to cover the others, just in case you're curious. So the next thing to talk about would be the optional, or rather the plus 30 objective. Now, bear in mind, because you need to complete 3 objectives above 30, you're going to need to either do this. I call it optional because it's actually timed. When you first start off this event, you've got a time limit to free all of the researchers before the doors essentially lock, and you cannot complete this objective if you fail that time limit. So you need to be very careful when you go for this, because if someone activates it and then everybody goes to, say, the ooze, then you're definitely going to run out of time. So you need to be very, very careful with this one. Now, it's pretty straightforward. You just need to rescue all of them, kill all the mobs, break down all the doors, rescue all the researchers. In the time limit, you'll be able to break down the last door and activate the console. Boom, done. Simple. If you don't manage to do this, on 30 plus, because you still require that extra objective to be completed, you'll have to go into the fire room. I can't call it anything else. It is the fire room. And it is incredibly frustrating, so we'll have a look-see at that next. So this is probably the most frustrating objective in this fractal, and I'd recommend, if this is your first fractal and you didn't get the extra objective if you're above 30, if you don't have a mesmer or people with the portals, I'd recommend just completely restarting again. I really would. This is so unbelievably frustrating. The way that we had to do this was, for me, this is on 33, 31, above 30. We had to have me run in, drop a portal at the start, run as far as I could, drop a portal, have another warrior with the portals, drop a portal, go through my portal, run as far as he could, drop a portal for our guardian to then run through to the end. And the guardian had to use both consoles. Now, interestingly enough, our warrior did make it to the end, but only with vengeance. So he had to get back up off the floor, and he died over in the room. So if you're quick enough and you do have vengeance, you could do this with 2 people. Bear in mind, I was running with 30 agony resistance in here and was getting hit like a truck, which is kind of strange. Everybody else was 35, still getting hit quite hard. So agony seems to be ticking very, very hard in this room, if not just overall. But bear that in mind, this room does give you agony, so you've got the damage over time from the room itself and the agony ticks, which can be so painful. I mean, we did manage to do this on story. I managed to go through it, run it on my own, so it is doable if you don't take that extra damage from the agony, especially if you can keep yourself alive with healing and whatnot. Annoyingly enough, I can't see anything that the cooling rods. You can get cooling rods from the other objectives and put them in the wall, in places in the fire room. I really don't understand why they designed it like this, because if you do every other objective and get 3 cooling rods, you've done every other objective anyway, and you don't need to do this room. So, kind of don't fully understand where they're going with that, but the cooling rods don't seem to do anything at all. I could be completely missing something there, but as I say, most of the time you won't have to worry with this room. If you do, it's doable, but you're probably going to be frustrated with it for a little while. There are ways to do it, as I say, portals, getting as far as you can, but I really don't know. I'd recommend avoiding it as much as possible. So, we come to the boss fight. You've got your objectives done, remember, 2 objectives completed below 30, 3 objectives above 30. We've got our boss fight. Now, what may have been a frustrating fractal is topped off by probably one of the best boss fights currently in the game. It is amazing, not to mention the model being used is super suave. That is really, really cool. I really enjoy this model. But basically what you've got to deal with are platforms which disappear and reappear. So a few things will cause them to disappear. The boss will fire a laser at a certain person, which will get rid of, or start the process of getting rid of, the platform where they are standing. So they need to kite it around, preferably not into the path of another player, because kind of getting rid of the platform they're about to jump onto won't make you any friends. So there's that. Obviously run around in a nice large circle, preferably around the edge if you're near the edge, preferably around the centre if you're near the centre. Be smart with it and you'll be okay. He also places a bomb on top of people's heads which will explode and create the process of removing the platforms directly beneath them. So you need to watch out for that, and obviously either completely spread out or completely stack up. Either which way, it works fine. If you spread out, then you'll want to kind of keep to your own devices, make sure you're safe, and avoid people as much as possible. Doing that, you prefer going ranged. Now, you can stack up, and you'd have to move as a unit. Definitely have to be a little more coordinated, but it lets you stack in melee. You can happily melee this boss, just be very careful how close you get to that weird platform, the one which is glowing around the edges, because that'll knock you back. Now, if you do fall, or if you fall if you don't move, basically, you'll die, instantly die, and you'll be teleported inside that knockback platform, so you won't be able to get rezzed either, which is kind of annoying. But you'll notice as these abilities go off, the platforms begin to glow purple and they'll start flashing. That's your cue to get off. Now, apart from that, it's actually pretty simple. Note that on Fractal levels higher than 10, all of his abilities will throw agony on you, as far as I'm aware. So bear that in mind if you don't have any agony resistance. Apart from that, it's a pretty straightforward fight. Don't fall, DPS, and collect your loot. That's it for this Fractal. That's it for this guide. Thanks for watching, folks. Good luck and have fun, and as always, I will see you next time.